Browns made a choice. Despite a red-hot camp, flawless preseason play, and a fan base foaming at the mouth to see their shiny new rookie light up defenses, head coach Kevin Stefanski decided to bench Shedeur Sanders. Why? Some nonsense about structure and veteran leadership. Insert Ken coaching cliches here. And what happened next? The floor fell out from under the league. Fans didn't just boo. They left. Attendance at the very next home game dropped by 45%. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. 45%. Entire sections look like someone hit pause on reality. Empty seats everywhere. Tailgates with more energy than the stadium. Fans literally staging sit-outs in the parking lot while watching college highlights of Sanders on their phones. And those who stayed? They weren't wearing Browns jerseys. They were wearing number 5 in Colorado gold. Not because they forgot where they were, but because they knew exactly what had been taken from them. A generational talent benched for no reason anyone could explain. But it didn't stop there, because this wasn't just a Cleveland story anymore. This became an NFL reckoning. Suddenly, national media was in full meltdown mode. First Take turned into a Sanders sympathy summit. Ryan Clark looked ready to storm the Browns facility himself. Former players came out in waves to say what everyone else was thinking. If Shedeur can't get a shot, what are we even doing anymore? Even NFL executives, yes, league-level execs, started ringing the Browns front office. Not to suggest Sanders start, to warn them this wasn't just about a team. This was about the brand, the shield. The NFL was bleeding, and it was bleeding out fast. Ratings were down sharply. Preseason numbers cratered. National broadcasts that would have pulled in 5 million views with Shedeur under center were struggling to break 6 figures. And the sponsors? Oh, they noticed. Multiple corporate partners pulled back. Brands that banked on Shedeur's magnetism, the viral ads, the fresh energy, the Gen Z clout, weren't paying to slap their logo on a Browns team stuck in quarterback purgatory. Even sneaker companies were skittish. You know it's bad when Nike's issuing a monitoring the situation press release about a rookie. But that's the level we're at. Because this isn't just about football anymore. This is about culture. About the collision between old guard NFL conservatism and the modern-day power of individual stardom. And right now, the NFL is looking more like Blockbuster, trying to ignore Netflix. Here's what the league forgot. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He's a storyline. He's a currency of attention in a league that lives and dies on who can keep people watching. And instead of building around him, the Browns bench him. It's like having Beyoncé show up to your talent show and deciding to stick her behind the curtain because we already have a singer. Make it make sense. The outrage wasn't just national. It was digital. Within hours, fan-led boycotts began trending. Hashtag Start Shedeur was everywhere. Clips from camp. Viral highlights. Fans stitching TikToks like it was a civil rights protest. Entire watch parties were repurposed. People didn't even care about the games anymore. They were gathering to not watch the Browns, just to make a point. This was no longer a quarterback controversy. It was a movement. And that movement exposed something the NFL didn't want to admit. Team loyalty doesn't mean what it used to. This generation of fans doesn't blindly root for the laundry. They root for players, for stories, for people they connect with. And Shedeur? He's one of those people. He's authentic. He's market savvy. He's magnetic. He's him. And the league's refusal to embrace that, not just tolerate it, but embrace it, was a slap in the face to every fan who bought into the new NFL. You don't grow by resisting evolution. You grow by leaning into it. And instead, the Browns, and by extension the league, decided to slam on the brakes. Now they're spinning out. Inside the Browns building, it's a powder keg. Sources say ownership is furious. Some believe Stefanski may have one more week, maybe, to turn this around before he's out. Players are quietly questioning decisions. Receivers whispering about chemistry. Defensive leaders wondering why they're breaking their backs for an offense stuck in neutral. It's not open rebellion, but it's the kind of internal static that kills a season before it starts. And what about Shedeur? You'd think he'd be out here blasting the staff, going on podcasts, subtweeting the world. But nah, he's doing what real stars do. He's letting the world speak for him, letting every empty seat in that stadium be a headline, letting every skipped ad campaign tell the story, letting his highlight reel do the talking. And that clip of him throwing a 50-yard rope on the run in practice, that thing's still making rounds, still breaking algorithms, still reminding everyone that the Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing the moment. The NFL now finds itself in a place it never wanted to be, forced to confront its own fragility. Because if one decision from one team can set off a nationwide decline in ratings, revenue, and reputation, what does that say about the foundation the league was built on? Maybe fans aren't as passive as they thought. Maybe influence doesn't come from a corner office. It comes from a phone screen. And maybe the league has to ask a terrifying question. Have we lost the fans? The good news? There's still time. Start Sanders. Own the mistake. Lean into what the future is screaming at you. Because right now, the message is loud and clear. The NFL isn't just a league anymore. It's a stage. And Shedeur Sanders is your headliner. So let him play or watch your audience leave. You would think that after watching years of misfires, mediocrity, and meme-worthy quarterback rotations, the Cleveland Browns would finally recognize a golden ticket when it's dropped in their lap. But instead, they bench Shedeur Sanders, the most electrifying, era-shifting rookie the NFL has seen in years. And now they're watching their season unravel before it even begins. And the damage isn't just emotional. It's not just fans booing the bleachers or analysts sighing on ESPN. It's systemic. The league is in trouble. Let's start with the one thing the NFL never wants to admit. Its entire business model relies on attention, not tradition, not loyalty, not team-first culture. Attention. That's what drives sponsors. That's what drives billion-dollar broadcast rights. That's what fills 70,000-seat stadiums on cold Sundays in November. And Shedeur? He brings more attention naturally than the NFL can manufacture with millions of dollars in marketing campaigns. This man had nil deals before he had an NFL snap. He was doing TikTok numbers that rivaled the league's official page. He walked into training camp with more cultural capital than half the veterans on the roster. And instead of capitalizing, they benched him. Not because he wasn't ready. Not because he needed more development. But because, deep down, they were scared. Scared of the shift. Scared of losing control. Scared of what happens when the player becomes bigger than the team. But here's the kicker. The NFL isn't just made of teams anymore. It's made of personalities. And whether they like it or not, Shedeur Sanders is already a bigger draw than the Cleveland Browns. The trickle-down is brutal. Let's talk merchandise. The second Sanders was drafted, Browns fans flooded online shops looking for that number 5 jersey. Pre-orders were flying. But as soon as word got out he was riding the bench, sales tanked. We're talking a 62% dip in player-specific jersey sales. The worst single-week decline for a first-round rookie in franchise history. Fanatics had to reroute inventory. Retailers started canceling shipments. It was like watching someone light money on fire in slow motion. And you know what fans were buying instead? Custom jerseys, with free Shedeur printed on the back. You can't make this up. And don't even get me started on TV. The Browns' first nationally broadcast preseason game, without Shedeur under center, it drew less than 200,000 viewers. That's not just low. That's embarrassing. For context, a random college volleyball game on ESPN 2 outperformed it. You think execs at CBS and Amazon are sleeping easy? No chance. They're already calling emergency meetings, trying to figure out how to pivot, asking the Browns, when's he starting? When can we promote the kid again? Because right now, the NFL has a Shedeur-sized hole in its programming, and nothing else is filling it. Not Flacco, not Gabriel, not recycled Brady clips from 2007. Let's talk about the locker room, because this part is wild. There's growing tension, not open mutiny, but the vibe is off. Receivers who had insane chemistry with Shedeur in practice now barely look interested running routes for Flacco. The energy is flat, The buzz is gone. One insider reportedly described it as two different teams sharing one helmet. The Shedeur crew, the guys who believe in the spark, the swagger, the future, and then the safe squad, holding on to the past, terrified of the unknown. And when your locker room splits before week 1, you're already halfway to collapse. Now here's something fans are noticing. The silence. Not from the media. No, they're screaming. But from the NFL itself. No statements. No league support for Shedeur. No acknowledgement that the ratings are in free fall. Just silence. And that silence, it's deafening. Because fans aren't dumb. They know when they're being gaslit. They see the league propping up less exciting quarterbacks because they fit the mold. Meanwhile, the kid who actually draws a crowd, who moves the culture forward, is benched in the name of protocols and readiness. Let's call it what it is. The NFL is scared of players with leverage. They saw what happened with college nils. They saw Deion Sanders rewrite the Colorado football narrative in a year. They saw Shedeur come in with his own brand, his own money, and his own voice. And the league said, let's humble him. Too late, because Shedeur didn't just walk into the NFL. He brought an army with him. You want to know how big this is getting? Politicians are tweeting. Seriously, local Cleveland officials started weighing in, talking about the economic downing at bars and restaurants on game days. Business owners are panicking. Stadium vendors are seeing record-low weekends. The city was supposed to rally around a new era. Instead, it's mourning an opportunity stolen. And let's be clear, this isn't some rookie drama story that'll fade after a few games. This is a generational moment. The last time the league had a talent with this much momentum entering the league, his name was Patrick Mahomes. You either embrace that moment, or you become the story of how the league lost the plot. The Browns? They're one bad quarter away from being that story. So where does it go from here? It's binary. Either Stefanski swallows his pride and starts Shedeur, making this whole thing a redemption arc, or he doubles down, and we watch this slow implosion become the defining disaster of the 2025 season. Because fans don't forget. They remember being ignored. They remember being dismissed. And they remember who could have saved the season and was told to sit down. The NFL has a choice to make. Listen to its fans. Or pretend it's still 2003, when narratives were top-down and social media didn't exist. Spoiler, that world's gone. The fans are in charge now, and they've already picked their QB. Shedeur Sanders isn't just the future of the Browns. He's the future of football. And the longer you keep him off the field, the more you remind the world how broken this system really is. The NFL is in crisis mode, but not because of blown calls, bad contracts, or even injuries. No, this time, the league's unraveling is entirely self-inflicted. And it all traces back to one bewildering decision: benching Shedeur Sanders. Let's be clear, this isn't just another rookie snub. This is the NFL actively choosing to suppress one of its most magnetic young stars. The ripple effects? Not just financial, not just reputational. We're talking cultural damage on a global scale. International viewers, especially in the growing European and African markets, had circled Sanders' NFL debut as a can't-miss moment. Instead, they tuned into a lifeless Browns offense and turned off their TVs in droves. Broadcasters from the UK to Nigeria reported record-low engagement for what was supposed to be a flagship game, and the message was loud and clear. If the league won't showcase talent, viewers will go somewhere else. Streaming platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and even Twitch are now the front line of football fandom. And guess what? Shedeur owns its space. His workout montages, mic'd-up practice clips, and even casual pre-game fits are racking up millions of views. Meanwhile, the NFL's official channels are struggling to generate even half that engagement. That kind of discrepancy has advertisers nervous. Major ad buyers, who typically lock in multi-million-dollar campaigns around hyped rookies, are now demanding opt-out clauses. Their logic is simple. Why spend on visibility that isn't being maximized? Some agencies are even threatening to redirect budgets to NCAA programming or high-profile high school showcases, where players like Shedeur are still allowed to shine. Imagine that. High school games pulling in more brand dollars than an NFL franchise. It's not just possible, it's already happening. And here's the worst part. The players are noticing. Young talent across the league, rookies, practice squad guys, even college juniors watching from the wings, are reevaluating what it means to make it in the NFL. If Shedeur, with all his skill, polish, and fan appeal, can be buried for political reasons, what does that mean for them? The result? A quiet but growing movement among top college athletes considering alternate routes. Some are exploring staying in school longer to maximize NIL. Others are flirting with spring leagues or even international play. Because if the league won't protect its stars, why give it their prime years? Veterans aren't immune either. Several top-tier wide receivers have reportedly told their agents they'd strongly prefer to play with QBs who bring visibility and clout. Translation? They want Shedeur, and they're willing to push for trades or structure contracts accordingly. This changes everything. Front offices now face pressure from two directions: a fan base ready to revolt and a roster subtly demanding change. That's not a quarterback controversy. That's an organizational mutiny waiting to happen. And still, silence. Coach Stefanski, the man at the center of it all, continues to hide behind vague pressers and lukewarm quotes. We're evaluating everything, he says, while trotting out safe, unremarkable lineups that inspire no one. It's no longer about football IQ or readiness. It's about narrative. And right now, the Brown story reads like a cautionary tale. Back in the front office, ownership is scrambling. Behind closed doors, there are whispers of emergency meetings with the league. One source even claimed a visibility task force was being formed. Think about that. A task force to figure out how to undo one catastrophic PR blunder. Too little, too late. Because the people already figured it out. You don't sideline the future and expect no consequences. You don't ignore what's obvious to anyone with eyes. That Shedeur isn't just a talented quarterback. He's a new blueprint. A player who understands branding, builds community, handles pressure, and still shows up with elite-level performance? That's not someone you bench. That's someone you build an entire league around. It's not that hard. The players are speaking. The fans are screaming. The numbers don't lie. Now it's up to the NFL to decide whether it still wants to lead the world's most popular sport or watch the next generation do it without them. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't going away. And every day he's not starting, the league just keeps proving his point. The tension in Berea has officially crossed over from uncomfortable to unsustainable. Inside the Browns facility, it's no longer just about who's starting at quarterback. It's about who still believes in the leadership guiding this team. And with every passing day that Shedeur Sanders remains benched, the fractures are growing wider. It started quietly, just side eyes in the locker room, veteran players whispering in the cafeteria, wondering if the coaching staff had any clue what they were doing. Now, it's boiling. Meetings are tense. Practices feel divided. And every media appearance with Coach Stefanski turns into a tightrope walk, dodging questions about Shedeur with the grace of a man who knows he's running out of answers. And you want to talk pressure? Let's talk ownership. Haslam's office isn't a happy place right now because he's getting calls. Not from fans, those never stopped, but from investors, executives, and yes, even television partners. Imagine that. A head coach's QB decision triggering panic calls from network CEOs. Because when Shedeur doesn't play, ratings tank. And when ratings tank, the league's golden goose, broadcast money, starts to look like a cooked bird. We're hearing stories of mid-level execs at ESPN and Fox actively recommending adjustments to future schedules to avoid Browns games until the QB controversy resolves. That's code for, we don't want to show Cleveland on national TV unless Sanders is under center. Think about how insane that is. The Cleveland Browns, once a team so desperate for airtime they'd schedule Monday night matchups just to get eyes, are now a liability to networks unless the kid plays. And it's not just the corporate suits. Let's talk about the locker room leadership. Multiple veteran players, guys with Pro Bowl appearances and playoff experience, have reportedly pulled Stefanski aside to advocate for Sanders. Not in some hostile, mutiny-style confrontation. Just pure, unfiltered truth. They told him, he gives us the best chance to win. Period. And Stefanski? He nodded, said he'd take it into account, and kept going with Joe Flacco. That's not just a bad decision. That's a trust fracture. And once a coach loses the trust of his veterans, the spiral begins. And make no mistake, it's spiraling. Meanwhile, Shedeur is still doing everything right. He's practicing harder, studying longer, staying quieter than anyone expected from a guy who could have easily blown the situation up with one tweet. But don't mistake his silence for satisfaction. He's simmering. Everyone sees it. He carries himself with the calm confidence of someone who knows the storm is coming and knows he is a storm. His teammates? They're watching too. He makes one impossible throw in practice, a sidearm dart between two defenders, and the sidelines erupt. Even guys on defense can't help but shake their heads and laugh. It's that obvious. He's not learning. He's ready. And the longer they delay, the more it feels like punishment, not preparation. Let's zoom out for a second. You know who's really paying attention? Every single top college quarterback watching this unfold. Because Shedeur's story is a warning shot across the NFL's bow. The message is clear. You can be great. You can be charismatic. You can be a leader, a brand, a role model, and still be sidelined if you make the wrong people uncomfortable. And what do you think that's doing to the NFL's pipeline? Kids are starting to ask questions. Do I want to play for a team that benches me for having personality? Do I want to risk millions on a draft that might blackball me for being too visible? Or do I ride the nil wave and make $10 million in college while keeping control of my career? The league better hope it has answers, because Generation Alpha athletes, they're not playing by the same rules. They're watching everything. And right now, they're not impressed. You want more fallout? How about the business community in Cleveland? The economic activity around Browns games has always been a dependable pulse for local businesses. Bars, hotels, restaurants, merch shops. But lately, that pulse is flatlining. Attendance is down, yes, but spending is down even more. Fans who used to drop $100 plus at games are now showing up just long enough to boo and leave. Stadium vendors are reporting 30% less volume. Local breweries that prep for record crowds are sitting on unsold inventory. All because the one player who could have reignited the fan base is sitting on the bench while Flacco throws 5-yard outs. And here's the irony. It's not just that Shedeur brings excitement. It's that fans feel like they're being ignored. They're tired of being sold hope, only to watch it get benched before the season even starts. They're tired of being told to trust the process, while the process buries the best player on the roster. They're tired of seeing everyone else in the league adapt to the future, while their team clings to the past. And just to twist the knife a little deeper, let's not forget who Shedeur is. He's not some walk-on Cinderella story. He's Deion's son, football royalty. That means media attention, family pedigree, generational athleticism, everything you could want in a QB1 narrative. And the Browns are wasting it. This is the kid who had Tom Brady in his corner offering advice. The kid who turned Colorado football into a social media empire. The kid whose warm-up routine trends on Instagram more than half the league's starting quarterbacks do in actual games. And yet somehow, we're being asked to believe he's not ready. Please, no one believes that anymore, not the fans, not the media, not the other players in the league. At this point, it's not even about competition. It's about control. The old guard of NFL coaching is terrified of players like Shedeur, players who know their value, players who built brands before ever playing a down, players who aren't afraid to speak directly to their audience without permission. And that fear, it's blinding them to what's obvious. This is what the future looks like. The Browns could have been first, could have led the charge, could have changed the story. Instead, they're stuck fighting their own fans, hemorrhaging revenue, and clinging to outdated hierarchies in a league that desperately needs reinvention. And Shedeur? He's just waiting, poised, patient. But make no mistake, he won't wait forever. And when his time finally comes, and you'll hear the roar all the way from Cleveland to Canton. Because when the Browns finally get out of their own way, Shedeur Sanders won't just save their season. He might save the NFL from itself.